from down the street.
I thought I heard something else.
Songs like that make you remember.
I thought I heard a whistle, like how Dad used to whistle assembly call.
How could you hear that?
There. It's funny how sound can stay with you.
It's Dad that stays with you.
It's because he had enough gall to be divided in 3 parts. Mother said the day the United States entered the First World War, Dad telegraphed President Wilson, arriving, Washington, 7 p.m. If you don't know how to use me, sir, I'll tell you how.
He showed them how to save time assembling machine guns.
But you couldn't tell where Dad's scientific management ended and his family life began, even buttoning his vest from bottom to top to save 4 seconds.
But he could walk into the Zeiss Works in Germany or the Pierce Aero plant in this country and announce he'd speed up production 1/4 and then do it.
And what works in the factory will also work in the home. And with so many of us, I guess it was either scientific management or, well, bedrock.
Even with a dozen, I don't think Dad was satisfied. I remember him looking us over and then saying to Mother, "Only 12, but never mind, Lily, you did the best you could."
Remember that one time Mother came home from a trip and asked if everything had run smoothly? Dad said, only had trouble with that one over there, but a good spanking sure brought him into line. Mother said, he's not one of ours, dear. He belongs next door.
I remember. The music coming from down the street. We used to sing that song.
The 3-part harmony.
The whole family rolling along in the Pierce Arrow, singing Love's Old Sweet Song. Dad leaned back against his seat and cock his hat on the side of his head. Mother would snuggle up against him as if she were cold. I remember her turning around once in between songs and saying, "Right now is the happiest time in the world."
Maybe it was.
Maybe that's the time in a family, when you're all together, before anything's happened to any one of you.
Remember the next time Mother said that?
Dad with his bad heart, leaving to lecture at the World Management Conference in Europe. He was about to go when he whistled assembly call. We came running and we were all together. It was the last time. Dad was trying to hug us all and then Mother said it.
But the way I remember Dad, I don't think of that. I think of him color chalking our fingers and the typewriter keys. Even the babies were learning the touch system. Or even taking movies of us washing the dishes so that he could analyze them to eliminate waste motions.
Painting diagrams on the wall to show the solar system, or the difference between meters and yards, tapping out messages in Morse code, telling those that understood where candy was hidden.
And oh, how he hated distractions. Remember what he called those 2 canaries?
The one he named "Shut Up" and the other "You Heard Me."
Oh. But the way I remember Dad best, he can come bounding up the front steps with his arms full, busting to try out some new idea. He'd come roaring into the living room, take out his pocket watch, and whistle assembly call. That meant, come running. Didn't you hear Dad whistle?
I wasn't sure.
Come on, relay.
14 seconds.
That's pretty good.
Only 8 seconds off the record.
Where's your mother?
Upstairs with the babies.
I had so many children because I thought anything your mother and I teamed up on was certain to be a success. Now I'm not so sure. Let me see your fingernails.
What, Dad?
Fingernails. Not very clean. Looks like you've been biting. Need trimmings. Jackie, would you look at those nails? Well, what do you think of them? What you need is a jackknife to keep your nails clean. All you boys need jackknives.
Gosh,
I have some
Dad.
little manicure sets for the girls. Here's yours. I'll inspect your nails again. Now, where can I put these?
What's in the boxes?
Is there something for us in those boxes?
These boxes?
Come on and tell us.
Oh, it's something special, something interesting and educational, but a lot of fun too. I'll tell you about it tomorrow, or maybe the day after.
Daddy.
Next week sometime?
Tell us now. You're going to
You
anyways.
know you are.
Well, since you insist. These are 2 Victrolas and some records.
But we already have a Victrola.
Downstairs?
Well,
Well, these Victrolas are for the upstairs bathrooms. One for the boys' bathroom and one for the girls' bathroom.
The bathrooms.
I'll bet we'll be the only family in town with a Victrola in every bath.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I've been thinking about the time you waste in the bathroom. At first, I thought it was unavoidable delay,
here we go.
but then I thought of these records. You're going to play them every morning while brushing your teeth, washing faces.
Well, why?
Does there have to be a why for everything?
There doesn't have to be, but with you there always is.
Well, when you start talking about Victrolas, dance music isn't the first thing that pops into our minds.
I'll admit, it's not dance music.
We might start thinking about dances.
Well, then what kind of records?
Very interesting and educational. Language lessons, French and German. Now, you don't have to play them consciously or listen to them. Just run them, and finally they'll make an impression.
Not every morning in the bathroom.
I spent $160 on this equipment.
It's not even unwrapped. Maybe you could get your money back.
I don't want my money back. And if those records aren't going from the minute you wake up till you come down to breakfast, I'll know the reason why.
One reason. It's impossible to change records while you're in the bathtub.
But a person can be in and out of the tub in the time it takes one record to play. That's why you're taught motion study.
Well, you didn't teach us anything about taking a bath.
Ah. Well, I will now demonstrate how to take a bath without waste motions. Without dabbing here and there and taking an hour. Dan, Frank, bring over that little rug. We'll pretend it's a bathtub.
You mean now?
I mean at once. Put it here. Now I'm in the bathtub.
Yes, Daddy.
A little more hot water, Jackie. Ooh, that's fine. Now, I have a cake of soap in my right hand. Pay attention to this one simple continuous motion. From the top of the shoulder, down the top of the left arm, back up the bottom of the arm, and down the left side. Switch soap. Same motion, other side.
But don't forget the back of your neck.
Oh, hello, boss. I'm not forgetting a thing.
Glad you're home early, but what's all the racket?
Fingernail inspection.
Oh, let's see yours. You're biting them again.
Well, let's see yours. I told you not to wash the dishes yourself.
There's already too much for the cook to do.
I'll handle that. Just a matter of saving motions. Dishes or bathing, it's all the same thing. Continuing, give a little attention to your neck and your feet, and you'll be out of the tub before you can say bonjour. Now you know all about taking a bath. Put the rug back and take the Victrolas upstairs. Now, boss, I'll talk to the cook.
We'll both talk to her.
Which goes in which bath?
We'll give the girls the French.
I much prefer French.
Jabot, or however you say it.
Is Jabot French or German?
I think it's Spanish.
Dad has a system for everything.
Even conjugating French and German verbs in the bathtub. If only he'd think of a system for interesting couple of boys I know at school.
In what? In me. Well, a person has to think of some things for herself. I did.
What do you mean?
I'm going to have it out with him.
Have what out?
Well, somebody has to, and I'm the oldest.
Well, what are you going to do?
I'm going to stop dressing like a freak. Aren't you tired of all the boys thinking you're a freak?
Yes, but Dad says
Well, I don't care what he says.
he might hear you.
He's going to anyways. Cotton stockings. No wonder we never get asked anywhere.
No boy would dare be seen with us. The way it looks, I'll be the only person to go through Montclair High without once being asked to a dance. Whenever the telephone rings, it's just some girl.
Whoa, a boy called yesterday. He just wanted my notes on the Second Punic War. You think it impressed fellows. I mean, knowing things like the touch system and Morse code. But it doesn't matter at all.
I had to do something. I bought some things, up-to-date things like other girls wear. And they look absolutely snaky.
Careful, he might walk in any minute.
Let him. I'm not a sneak.
What'd you get?
Short underthings and silk stockings.
Silk stockings. But when
And they're right here in this package, and I'm going to wear them, and I'm going to be asked to lots of dances, and lots of boys will want to dance with me, and I'll be a really popular girl.
If Dad lets you wear them, he'll have to let me wear them too. And me. And we'll be going on dates and going to dances. And we can talk over different boyfriends and compare notes. Oh, golly.
Silk stockings.
And it's Dad. Hide it, quick.
More efficiency, that's all I hear.
Well, if you just apply motion study.
Motion study is fine as long as it's somebody else's motions you're studying.
Well, you better get along with dinner, Mrs. Fitzgerald. My husband told you he'd take care of it.
Lincoln freed the slaves. All but one. All but one.
We'll handle this the same way we would in a factory.
Well, it isn't exactly the same.
Exactly. And what works in the factory.
Yes, dear.
Seconds. Now, I have a wonderful surprise for you. We're going to try a wonderful new idea.
What is it?
What kind of idea?
We're going to start a family council. Your mother's not going to run this household anymore. I'm not going to run it either.
Then who?
You are.
Me?
All of us. Through a democratic family council. We'll have a family democracy. Everybody votes. You'll be deciding things for yourselves. You'll work out the questions that come up.
Gosh, Dad, we will?
You bet we will. You know how I get factories to set up joint employer-employee boards to make assignments on the basis of personal aptitudes?
Yes, but what kind of assignments, Dad?
Oh, every sort of assignment. This and that, even work assignments. Now, you're going to love this, and it's a great step forward, you'll see. The Gilbreth Family Council is going into session right now. Arrange yourselves. Frank, get your mother a chair. We'll get right into the business before us.
Just like a factory?
I call this meeting to order. That means quiet. Now, you will notice I'm installed here as your chairman. I assume there are no objections. The chair hearing none,
Mr. Chairman,
out of order.
well, since this is going to be a democratic council, I think the chairman ought to represent the common people.
You're very much out of order. The chair has the floor.
But you said you heard no objections, and I want to object.
Out of order means out of order. And sit down. Now, the first job of the council is to apportion the necessary work about the house. Does the chair hear any suggestions? Come, come, fellow members. How do you want to divide the work?
I don't think anybody wants to divide the work or otherwise be associated with it in any way, shape, or form.
Well, in a democracy, everybody speaks. So start speaking. Dan, I recognize you. What do you think about it? I'm warning you. Speak.
I think Mrs. Fitzgerald and Tom should do the work. They get paid for it.
Sit down. You're no longer recognized. Bill, I recognize you.
I think Tom and Mrs. Fitzgerald have enough work to do. So I think we should hire more people to help with the work.
You're out of order, too. Boss, now what?
Of course, we could hire more help, but that would mean saving somewhere else. If we
cut out all allowances, moving pictures, new clothes, and so forth.
Ah, do I hear a motion to that effect? Who wants to stop allowances? Moving pictures?
Seriously, we'll all have to help.
I move the boys to cut grass and rake leaves.
And I move the girls sweep, dust, and do supper dishes.
And everyone makes his own bed,
Except the chairman.
except the chairman.
Second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, if there's no other
Mr.
business-
Chairman, I understand the purchase of a new rug is intended.
Yes, it is.
Can the budget afford such a rug?
Well, I don't know. Sounds to me as if they have a good point, boss.
I had planned to spend $100.
I move no more than $95 be spent.
I second that motion too. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm afraid you lose on that one, boss. Now, if there is no other business...
Mr. Chairman, I move that we spend the $5 we just saved on a puppy.
Hey, wait a minute.
Second the motion.
Out of order. Very much out of order.
A dog would be a pet, and everyone could pat him. I would be his master.
The dog would sleep at the foot of my bed, and I could wash him when he was dirty.
A dog would be an accursed nuisance. He would be our master. Nobody would wash his filthy, flea-bitten carcass. He'd positively sleep at the foot of my bed.
Well, let's vote.
No, any pet that doesn't lay eggs is an extravagance.
Vote.
This meeting is adjourned. Council adjourned. That's all.
All in favor?
Oh!
I'm afraid you lose on that one, boss.
I suppose next you'll be wanting ponies, roadsters, trips to Hawaii, silk stockings.
Mr. Chairman,
What is it?
there is still further business I wish to place before the council. I'll show you. I want the whole family to see.
Would you like me to bring down the babies?
Be serious.
Well, to begin with, these underthings, these teddies, I'm going to wear them.
You will not. Put them back in the bag. It embarrasses me to even look at them.
But I bought them with my own money.
You'll take these right back to the store.
But there's only one other girl in school besides us who doesn't wear teddies.
If you don't believe us, come to school and see for yourself.
Oh, that won't be necessary.
Dad, they're getting a bit crazy.
That's all they talk about. You should see them eyeing the boys in the hall at school. Or in the lunchroom.
You little snakes! Shame on you!
Well, you might as well know, it isn't just the teddies. I bought silk stockings.
No.
And you didn't.
Well, you might as well go bare-legged as wear these. You can see right through them. They're like the last of the 7 veils.
Well, now you know.
And don't you know what people are going to think if you go around showing your legs through silk stockings?
What?
Never mind.
That's the way everybody dresses nowadays.
Boys don't notice when everyone dresses that way.
Don't talk to me about boys. I know all about what boys notice.
But you don't want us to be wallflowers.
Well, I'd rather raise wallflowers than clinging vines.
Well, I'm going to wear these. I'll not be a wallflower anymore.
And I'm going to buy silk stockings too.
And me.
I won't let you out of the house with them.
Don't you see, Dad? I've never even been asked to the drugstore for a plain, ordinary vanilla soda.
Well, if it's vanilla sodas you want.
Oh, Dad.
As for boys, they don't get serious about the kind of girl that wears silk stockings. They just run around with them.
Well, if you ask me, it's a dead giveaway to be so suspicious. It denotes a misspent youth.
Nobody asked you. Listen to me, Anne. When a man picks a wife, he wants someone he can respect.
Well, they certainly respect me. I'm the most respected girl in the whole school. The boys respect me so much, they hardly look at me.
Come back down here. I don't want you wasting your time with a lot of boys. Look at the fun we have right here at home with our projects.
You don't understand. You don't understand at all. I wish your job was selling shoes and you only had 1 or 2 children and neither of them was me.
I guess we better start cleaning up the yard. Come on.
Let's give a hand in the kitchen.
Okay, good girls.
I'll tidy up the living room.
Boss, what is it I don't understand?
High school girls.
Remember when we decided to have a dozen children? Remember what I suggested?
Well, you suggested we have all boys.
Well, I'm not blaming you, boss. But you should have followed my suggestion. High school girls. By jingo, there's only one way to handle this.
Just like a factory.
Hey, Ern,
What, Frank?
why doesn't Dad want you girls wearing silk stockings and going on dates?
I don't know why.
But Dad has a reason. I mean, he wouldn't do it without one.
No, he wouldn't.
What could that reason be? Do you remember that one time after Dan bought the $5 dog? About 2 weeks after Anne first showed Dad those silk stockings.
I remember the battle over those stockings.
Yes. But a little while after that, Dad and Dr. Burton had a long session upstairs. They came down together and Dad was joking.
And we didn't think anything about it. We didn't even have a suspicion.
That's the time.
They were so cheerful. Gosh, Frank, when a man with a dozen children gets told his heart's on the blink, what's he going to do?
You see, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, maybe that's why Dad didn't want you girls thinking about boys and dates and sodas all the time.
Wouldn't contribute to skipping grades at school.
But don't you see? The further we got along in school, the more we knew about everything. The easier it would be, well, later on.
Of course.
We'd be able to take care of ourselves better, and there would be less of a load on Mother.
Can't blame him for not wanting us to waste time on dates and things like that, but we didn't know.
And he didn't know either. I mean, like what Mother said about high school girls.
I guess boys and things, Dad must have figured it was a shocking waste of time.
The way I remember, the first boy to call, he came on the same night that Dad had the big session with Dr. Burton.
I think Dad and the doctor went upstairs after dinner that night.
That's right. You and I were playing checkers when they came down.
And I was wishing the phone would ring, and it would be some fullback who was dying to meet me. I didn't pay much attention to the checkers or even to Dad.
Well, somehow you should realize right then. I mean, what the doctor was saying to Dad. You should understand at the time.
At the time, they seemed so casual. Just passed like any other conversation, like any ordinary conversation might pass.
You were sitting right there, and I was sitting right here.
But we hardly noticed. I guess I was daydreaming.
Hey, Aaron, your move.
What?
Your move.
Oh,
Sure?
of course I'm sure.
Alright.
I suppose you feel proud of yourself?
I do. Another game?
Quacks! You're all quacks.
I hear it so much, there must be something to it.
The Gilbreths are rugged pioneer stock. No time for nonsense like being sick.
What about the Gilbreth measles epidemic last spring?
Probably even pioneers got the measles.
It's possible.
You old fake, now you're trying to tell me that I shouldn't take out any 3-year magazine subscriptions.
Absolute waste of money.
What about a 1-year subscription?
I'd still save my money. If I were you, I'd ask about short-term subscriptions. Maybe 6 months.
That's a mighty short-term subscription.
A man with your responsibilities doesn't want to waste his money.
Dr. Bones, I say, Dr. Bones, I don't believe a word you say. I feel too good. Besides, I'm too busy.
Fine. I won't have to worry about it then. See you next week.
You bet you will.
What magazine are you subscribing for, Dad?
Oh, never you mind. What's this?
We already did our homework.
Well, that's fine. But you don't have to stop there. If you always do a little more, pretty soon you skip a grade.
I just skipped a grade last year.
Well, start thinking about next year. I don't want my children held back by a school system geared for the children of average parents. That's one of tonight's topics of discussion. Silk stockings.
Well, I've been wearing them to school. I guess you might as well know it.
Suppose next thing I know, you'll be wanting to paint yourselves.
But everybody uses makeup nowadays.
And they don't call it painting anymore.
I don't care what they call it. I'll not have any painted women in this house.
What you want is a house full of old maids.
What I want is for you to get ahead in life with things that matter, without needing me to hound you all the time.
And the topic for tonight's family council is skipping grades at school.
Yes, by jingo. And a little better organization around here.
But we voted all topics should be of general interest.
General interest. Better organization is always of general interest.
That's so smart. Why can't he understand?
You poor thing.
Your man. Sure.
Of course. Hey, wait a minute.
Another game.
No.
Get him out of here!
Of all the dumb dogs!
What'd you expect for $5?
Up on Dad's bed again.
He's always on Dad's bed. He's crazy about Dad.
The basement window, across the coal bin, up the back stairs, Dad's bed.
He was right about the dog. Now he'll think he's right about everything.
Clothes, makeup, and everything.
They're still hoping the boys will go mad over them.
Over them?
And what's so ridiculous about that?
Nothing,
Only what?
If you have anything to say.
I just wouldn't think you'd have that sort of effect on anybody.
And we've known you all of our lives. Of course, some boy who didn't know you as well.
Thanks for the compliment.
I think you're very good swimmers. And you're good at tennis.
We don't care for your opinion.
Other boys don't think that about us.
Do they?
I've never even heard the subject mentioned.
If you want the honest, frank
We
answer,
don't.
those silk stockings, what good did they do?
Someday you're going to be surprised. Someday that phone's gonna ring and it'll be.
Somebody for Dad. Hello. What? You want to talk with who? You're absolutely sure? You haven't gotten her mixed up with somebody else.
Who's it for?
You don't mean Aunt Gilbert. The one with freckles. My gosh, please don't hang up. You're still there? Thank goodness, please don't hang up.
What are you saying?
Hey Anne, imagine, a boy's calling for you. Hurry before he hangs up.
Give me that phone!
Imagine, for you.
You snake in the grass. Hello, this is Aunt Gilbert. Who? Well, nice of you to call.
Hey, talk to him.
Something.
I can't.
I'll take care of them.
We were only kidding.
I'll fracture your skulls.
Hey, Fritz,
No, nothing's the matter. Yes, this is a very good time to call, yes. Where have I been all your life? Well, mostly I've been right here.
Kid him along.
Well, of course I'd be glad to have a soda with you. You mean right now? At night?
But what about Dad?
You're driving right over?
Anne!
You don't have permission.
Well, that'll be fine. Just give a little toot on your horn when you get here. Be seeing you.
Well, who was it?
Joe Scales.
Golly, the cheerleader! And a car, too!
He's a little undersized.
Well, so what if he is? You can't expect to start with the captain of the football team, but maybe if some people begin taking us out, then maybe other people
He has his
will.
own car.
You should hear it backfire. What are you gonna tell Dad?
Sooner or later, he's got to realize.
But don't you think it's better if he realizes a little at a time?
Well, I don't know when I'll get another chance. But there'll be a lot of people at the drugstore. I bet there'll be almost everybody.
If Dad lets you go.
He might have a project.
Well, don't you see? This is the start. Boys notice girls that other boys notice. Pretty soon, you begin getting popular, and then you meet someone you really want to meet.
And if you start going to dates, Dad can't be so strict with us.
No, that's why it's so important. It's the start of everything, that's all.
Mother, your father will be down in a minute. He has a few things for the family council to take up.
Mother, there was a phone call. A boy called me.
Well, that's nice.
I think he's a very well brought up boy.
He's the cheerleader.
He asked me to go have a soda with him at the drugstore.
When?
Tonight. He said he's driving right over.
He has his own car.
I don't think tonight's a very good night for it. I think some other night.
But if I break the first date I ever had, there won't be any other night.
Please, Mother.
Say something to Dad.
I wish, but some other time.
But when? When?
I suppose you have to start sometime, though.
I already told him yes.
Well, maybe you could bring it up at the end of the council, if you're especially cooperative. Hope this boy is the quiet and reassuring type.
Oh, he is.
He's small, too. Only that high?
That's reassuring.
Now we'll see whose skull gets fractured.
Bill, put down the cane.
We were trying to explain things to the dog.
We made a new bed for him under the porch. He sure to stay there.
Hi, Jingo, he'd better. Frank, get your mother a chair. I now call this meeting to order. Now, if there are any topics of general interest you'd like to take up. The chair hearing none.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go into the topic of roller skates.
Not of general interest.
I'm interested.
Sit down.
The trouble is, you always decide what's of general interest, and none of us have a chance. I don't think that's very democratic.
Nonsense. I always favor a family discussion of general interest before going to the business before us. And I can't ever recall as to being unreasonable to subject matter.
I might sometimes see a boy who's in my history class.
Not of general interest.
Oh, he is. We're all very interested.
Not me. I'm bored stiff. Now, if Anne had said she might sometimes see a two-headed boy, that would be of general interest.
I'd be very interested in seeing a two-headed boy.
Now, I have a first-rate topic. I'm going to teach you a new method of multiplication. It's bound to make a wonderful impression on your math teachers.
Is that a general interest, Daddy?
That, son, is of the utmost general interest. But before getting to the mathematics, I wish to make an announcement. I've been invited to speak at the World Management Conference in London, and despite the opposition of a few warriors, I intend to go. But by Jingo, I'm going to leave this family in smooth running condition, without a big load on your mother.
They're not such a load.
I would like to organize a purchasing committee to buy food, clothes, and equipment. Then you're to elect a utilities officer to levy 5-cent fees on wasters of water and electricity. Then a projects committee will ensure all work gets done on schedule. Your mother has enough to do as it is.
Well, of course, we'll all help, Dad. And since that's settled, I move we adjourn.
We need more system. I'm installing work charts in the bathrooms. You're to initial them every morning while brushing teeth, washing your face, doing homework, and so forth.
I think we're all in favor, and I think we ought to adjourn.
It's getting late.
It sure is.
I want to see us have the most efficient household in the whole world. That would leave more time for your studies. There's nothing more important than your schoolwork, your education.
Well, couldn't we get into that tomorrow? We're all doing fine in our studies.
Well, I want you doing better. Skipping grades now and then. I don't want anything to distract you from your studies.
Mr. Chairman, please, we ought to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Your most important job is to get ahead in school as fast as possible. And anything that detracts from that, well, what I'm trying to say is your schoolwork.
Anne! Hey, Anne!
Are you in any way responsible for that noise?
I'm responsible.
Great Caesar's ghost. What's that written on the car? Jump in, sardine, here's your tin.
There's more on the other side.
He asked Anne if she could go have a soda with him, and I think it might be all right.
I've already done all my homework.
But we have a mathematics project.
Well, couldn't I get it from Ernestine later? I promise it will.
Tell him to stop that.
Joe, park the car and come inside. Oh, Dad, please.
Now, Frank, I won't have you embarrass Anne.
What do you want me to do? Go sit in the kitchen?
We're going to have a talk before you say anything to that boy. He may be very nice.
Well, anyone would think boys are more important than a mathematics project.
Now, Frank, you keep an open mind.
Now what?
Hey, the gang's all here. What's the matter? Didn't you hear me honk?
We heard you.
Some horn, hey?
My brothers and sisters.
The babies are upstairs.
Some family.
You're the first cheerleader we ever saw up close.
Gee.
How do you like my tie? It's a William Tell tie. You pull the bow, it hits the apple. William Tell tie. You pull the bow, it hits the apple. Some tie, eh? No? Say, we're running late. We better shove off.
I think maybe my dad wants to meet you first.
I think maybe he will.
The gang's all down there. We ought to get going.
Haven't you got time to show us how you lead a cheer?
No.
Yes.
Show us a cheer.
I'd like to see that.
I'll show you. Sure thing.
Not now. Are you crazy?
I'll show you one cheer and then we'll get going. Okay? Okay.
No, don't.
What are you worried about? Come on, follow me. Let's have a hoorah, Rain a Tiger from Montclair High. A hoorah, Rain a Tiger. Come on, let me hear you holler now. Hoo! Hoo! Rah!
Rah!
Rain!
Now, Frank.
Dad, I'd like you to meet Mr. Joe Scales.
How do you do, young man?
Hi, Pup.
Oh, remember now, Dad, Joe asked me to go have a soda with him at the drugstore. He says all the gang's there.
How about the project?
Well, I'd like to go, Dad.
Well, I'm always reasonable. And a soda shouldn't take long.
You mean I can go?
Sure you can, honey.
Oh, Dad.
Let's see now. I can take out time for 15, maybe 20 minutes.
Take time for what?
Chaperone you, of course.
A chaperone with me?
Wait, you didn't think I was going to let Anne out of the house alone with you?
What's wrong with me?
Did it take him a lot more than 15 minutes to answer that one?
I can't walk into a drugstore in front of everyone, followed by a girl's father.
Joe.
What's wrong with me?
Well, young man, that's what they call a rhetorical question.
I don't care if it is. I'm not going to be chaperoned in any drugstore.
Joe, please.
You don't trust your own flesh and blood?
Of course he does.
Of course, I trust Anne. I trust all my children. It's cheerleaders I don't trust.
Well, if that's how you feel, I'm leaving. I'll find someone else.
A judicious decision.
Just a minute, Joe.
I must have been crazy.
Some date, hey?
Wait till I tell the guys at the drugstore what happens when you dated Gilbreth.
You're not going to tell everyone.
It isn't Anne's fault.
Wait till they hear. You'll get no more dates like me.
A hooray and a tiger for us.
Dad! Joe, wait till I talk to you. I can't see what harm would have been done if I'd gone for a soda. He'll tell them all. I'm so embarrassed.
Cheerleaders. Absolute waste of time. Let's just do a little on the mathematics project. Then I'll take you all to the movies. We'll get a lot of candy and popcorn and have a wonderful time.
Nobody in this family understands me. I wish I were dead.
What a thing to wish. Now that's enough wasted time. I'm going to teach you how to multiply two-digit numbers in your head. The first example, to multiply 46 times 46, first you find out how much more 46 is than 25.
There he goes.
And then you find out how much less 46 is than 50. The answer is 4. Then you square the 4 and get 16.
They must have shut the window.
Remember back when the neighborhood Victrolas used to play that?
And clap hands, here comes Charlie, stumbling, me and the boyfriend.
You gotta see Mama every night, or you can't see Mama at all.
Those tunes make me think of a cheerleader back at Montclair High. I can't recollect his name.
Joe Scales. Some chic, eh?
Flaming Youth had really caught fire. Except at our house.
At our house, there was Dad.
And he acted as though he thought our generation was riding straight for the devil.
In a stripped-down Model T, suitably inscribed, "Chicken, here's your roost. 4 wheels, no brakes, the tin you love to touch."
Those old jalopies were just as good as our own car.
Remember riding with Dad in the Pierce Arrow? Someone would shout, "I see 12 kids," to which Dad would bellow back, "Oh, these ain't much. You ought to see the ones I left at home." One time, someone shouted, "What are you doing in that old ark?" To which Dad responded, "Oh, I'm just out collecting animals, like the good Lord told me. All I need now is a jackaxe. Hop in."
The most embarrassing part was when we'd come to a toll bridge, and Dad played his favorite game. He'd ask the nationality of the collector, then, "Hey, do my Irishmen come cheaper by the dozen?"
Irishman, is it? Sure, it wasn't meant for a family like that to pay toll.
Sometimes it was a Dutch collector.
Ah, a fine lot of healthy Dutchmen. Drive through on the house.
Even out for a drive, he couldn't stop teaching. I mean, if we passed a factory, he'd explain how they use the plumb line to get the chimney straight.
It's because he was in a hurry for us. All the systems, study projects, committees. Why were you horrible as head of the purchasing committee?
The purchasing committee got wholesale rates from underwear to baseball. And look at the saving on canned food when we ordered direct by the truckload.
Okay, how about 96 jars of peanut butter?
Everybody likes lots of peanut butter.
Not me. Not anymore.
The committees were a wonderful idea. They eliminated waste motions and made things easier for Mother.
You didn't talk that way back then. Back then, all you girls thought about were dates and boys.
Because a boy hardly dared call at our house. That little cheerleader did everything but nail a quarantine sign on our door.
I remember Anne burning up. I'm living through what can only be described as hell on earth.
Dad picked that particular time to step up the efficiency program.
Well, he didn't exactly pick that time.
I didn't mean.
Sure, none of us knew. A lot of times we just thought that he was extra impatient.
Like the time the lady psychologist came to give us those examinations.
We didn't know about those exams. We didn't know that they might mean that Anne could possibly graduate early ahead of her class.
Dad's master plan. He was so anxious for Anne to get through school right then, so she could be free to help Mother.
Didn't Anne go out to the movies with some boy that afternoon?
She didn't know the exams meant anything. She didn't know Dad had been talking with the people at school about graduating her early.
But she missed dinner completely and most of the tests. Dad was livid.
He kept checking his watch every 3 minutes. The psychology teacher hadn't been there. He'd have been roaring like a lion.
You and I finished the test early. So did some of the others. Then I guess we'd gone upstairs.
Frank, that music isn't coming from down the street. That's one of our Victrolas. That's upstairs.
The girls' bathroom.
The boys.
Of all the dumb.
Dad's mad enough as it is.
Boiling, we better switch them off.
Poor Dad.
Quiet! Shut off that noise! I said quiet! You two. Who's playing those records?
I don't know.
Anne didn't come in yet?
The boys' bathroom.
The girls.
No use trying to get around me now. Switch them off and come down here. Turn them off! That psychology teacher will think I told them to turn on those language lessons. She'll think I'm trying to impress her.
Well, aren't you?
How'd you do on your trick examination?
Practically perfect.
Me too.
Well, it didn't take you long. You and whoever turned on those records.
Guten Abend.
Bonsoir, mon père.
If you spend half as much time improving your minds as you do memorizing those stupid songs, you could recite the Quran forwards and backwards.
Ich bin durstig, der muss ins Gut. Das Wasser ist kalt. It muss ablaufen.
Frère Jacques, dormez-vous, dormez-vous.
Ich weiß nicht, was soll es bedeuten, dass ich so traurig bin. Ein
So
Märchen
many
aus alten
Madame,
Sitten, das
so
kommt mir
many
nicht aus dem
Madame.
Sinn.
Ding dong bell, ding dong bell.
No, let's wind up the Victrolas and have some more jazz. Let's have that record, All Love My Sweetie, forever and a day.
You made it up. That's not a record.
Maybe not, but take it from me, that's well above average.
We bought those jazz records with our own money and earning them. Who wants to recite the Quran backwards?
Look at the report cards you brought home this afternoon.
What's so wrong with a B average?
Well, last year you got straight A's.
Last year I skipped a grade. It takes a while to catch up.
Just the same, all these afternoons spent with the boys in the drugstore, drinking sodas, listening to jazz. I told you it wouldn't help your marks, and this proves I was right.
We hardly spend any time with boys.
We don't have what some people would call a normal social life. Some people have dates on school nights.
It's almost night now, and a school night. And where's your sister?
I told you 10 times.
She went to a movie with the boy.
All afternoon? She missed dinner. She's missing the examination. She knows she should be home.
Bill went with her.
She remembered your rule, a brother on every date.
Yes, but she's making him miss the exam too. Why couldn't she just have the boy come over here instead of go off like that?
Why?
Yes, why?
Because of the way you scared Joe Scales. He's got the rest of the boys afraid to come here, even that friend of mine.
The one with the motorcycle? The one that keeps buzzing the house with that noise contraption? At all hours.
He's trying to work up the nerve to come in.
What's he afraid of?
You!
Me? Why should any boy be afraid of me?
I think it's Mac.
Tell him your father's leaving for the management conference in Europe. Tell him he won't have to work on his nerve much longer.
She already told him.
He's stopping. Maybe he'll come in. There he goes.
Joe Scales' car is much louder.
I hear Motorcycle Mac.
He's still working on his nerve.
Is Anne back yet?
No, for all I know, she eloped.
She went to a movie.
Mrs. Gilbreth are not getting any help in the kitchen.
Well, with all these examinations, things are upset.
Hop to it.
Martin, you better see to the babies.
I'm not supposed to wash the dishes.
Yeah, what about Dan and Jackie and Lillian too?
They're still finishing the exam.
Oh, now I know why they're taking so long.
I thought they were a scream at dinner.
Who?
With the woman examiner.
Miss Brill.
She came late and was trying to catch up. Oh, little Jackie tried to be so helpful. He would say, oh, no need to gobble your grapefruit like a pig. If you show up late, we'll wait till you're through.
They made a bad impression.
And Lillian.
Well, she thinks family rules apply to guests.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I can't give you your dessert until you finish your lima beans.
And it didn't help when Jackie asked if What Miss Brill was saying was of general interest.
As a matter of fact, I don't think they care for Miss Brill, and I don't either. I don't think she's being fair.
Of all the fine teachers, we had to get that one.
She asked all sorts of slanted questions, and I don't think she's marking the papers fairly.
Yes, and she's blocking my most important plan.
Plan? I thought this was one of the school's research projects.
Well, that too.
Does this have anything to do with all your trips to school?
With Anne's record, it's ridiculous for her to mark time with her class. There's no reason why they shouldn't graduate her at the end of this semester.
That's going awfully fast. She skipped a grade last year.
Yes, but once she graduates, she won't have to worry about schoolwork for a while. With me away, you could use the help.
Yes, but Anne doesn't know this test will have any bearing on when she graduates.
I worked out a deal with the superintendent. He's writing a paper on the effects of home education, and naturally he came to the right source for that.
Naturally.
I told him he could have his Miss Brill snoop around all she wants, but in return he's got to do something for me.
He's going to give Anne her diploma?
If her marks are good enough. And by jingo, they better be. What's the matter with that girl?
I presume you're talking about your daughter, Anne.
There's not a thing the matter with any of our children.
You'll find that out when you mark Anne's paper.
And when will that be?
Don't worry, she'll be here. The youngest girl in her class, and always gets A's.
Where did she go?
She went to a movie.
I think these examinations are a little more important. They're for the superintendent.
I know who they're for. They're important to me, too.
The superintendent directed me to give these exams. That doesn't mean I approve of anyone graduating ahead of her class. If she never shows up, that's perfectly all right with me.
She'll be here any minute.
But what have you learned so far about the others?
The results aren't conclusive.
What's inconclusive about them? Did you ever mark a better set of papers?
I have to interpret the results.
Interpret? Well, here's something to interpret.
What's that?
You'll see.
"10 seconds.
Wow.
Doesn't count. Bill and your older sister aren't here.
Aw.
Frank, what's 46 times 46?
2116.
Dan, 19 times 17?
323.
Martha, 52 times 52.
2704.
Good girl.
You've coached them.
I taught them. Do you know the capital of Columbia? Do you know the population of Des Moines according to the last census? Of course you do. But so does Dan here. So does Lillian. And so does baby Jane upstairs. I'd bring her down, but it's time for her bottle.
Now you're just being ridiculous.
What's 16 times 16?
Really, I don't think that.
256.
There. 17 times 17?
289.
Good Jackie boy. Boss, we'd better keep that boy.
Are there some questions you'd like to ask?
To help you interpret.
I have all I need on these proper examinations.
No questions. Dismissed. Get on with things. Snap along now.
Tell Mrs. Fitzgerald to keep some dinner warm.
Sure.
There's no harm in home education, but I wouldn't try and do so much with them.
Why not?
Well, if everyone went in for irregular schooling like this, there'd be no system left. There'd be chaos.
Perhaps you'd better mark those papers, see how much chaos you find there.
You can use the dining room table.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'll look over your shoulder.
I do.
Yes, you will.
The old goat.
Well, you go up and lie down for a little. Dr. Burton says you should lie down a little after dinner.
Well, she's an old goat, too.
Rest won't hurt you.
him out of here!
Won't you ever learn? Why always Dad's bed? Why not my bed, or Dan's bed, or Martha's bed, or Ann's bed? Why always Dad's bed? He just attracts dogs.
Come on in, Larry. Just my house.
I'm starved.
Well, go eat.
Don't worry, and don't think I didn't notice.
Notice what?
Remember that silly part in the movie? That part all about love? I saw you two hold hands.
That's a lie.
If anything like that happened for maybe 10 seconds, it was because of the movie and entirely involuntary.
It was?
It was just that kind of movie.
Oh.
See?
Having you tag along is simply unendurable.
I suppose you think it's durable to me. I'm starving to death.
Kid brothers.
In case you didn't already know, I have 6 of them. 6 berserk kid brothers.
I already know.
Thank heaven.
Say, I bet you're getting hungry.
Hungry?
I made you miss dinner.
I miss dinner all the time. I hate dinner. In fact, there's one thing I don't care if I miss. It's dinner.
I don't seem to be very hungry either.
Oh, you're not?
Of course, I ate an awful lot of popcorn.
And gumdrops.
Of course, that never interfered with my appetite before. Say, would you like to go to a dance?
Really? Well, I could try to fit it in depending on when it is.
Tonight, a bunch of the seniors.
Well, it just so happens tonight I'm free.
Swell, I'll change and be back in half an hour. I'm glad your dad isn't old-fashioned about letting you go out on school nights.
School night. Wait, Larry, there's someone I have to check with first.
Some other boy?
Well, he's male.
I didn't think you were the type to stall a fellow while she sees if she can get a better date.
No, I'm not. It's not that at all. Really, Larry. I'd love to go with you. It's just I have to get through a short examination first. And like I said...
Honestly?
Honestly, but I'd rather go with you to the dance than with anyone.
That's different.
At it again. The minute my back is turned.
You don't have to sneak up on people. You could cough or something.
Just try coughing with your mouth full of peanut butter. I have to tell Dad we're back.
Bill, Mother said not to worry Dad with unimportant worries.
Who said I was gonna worry him?
I hope he doesn't get your father mad.
He won't. He'd better not.
I heard about your father.
Well, lots of people hear about Dad and his work.
Well, it wasn't exactly about his work.
Like the way he eliminates waste motion and things like that?
Tell you the truth, I was almost afraid to come here.
No.
I didn't know whether to ask you for a date or not.
You haven't been listening to that little cheerleader, that Joe Scales.
How'd you know?
Really, the things that boy says about my father, he'd say almost anything.
He would?
You'd think my father was some kind of monster when actually...
Yes.
He's friendly and agreeable and witty and has one of the sweetest tempers and...
So she's back, is she?
And this story's just absurd.
I'm glad to hear it.
What took her so long?
He must be calling to someone at the back of the house. When Dad calls to the back of the house, you can hear him at the front of the house, too.
I guess you can.
No reason why you shouldn't come here.
You mean that boy's down there right now?
Oh, shush, Frank.
I won't shush.
I guess I better be going.
Suppose you had.
Guess I better.
About the dance. I don't suppose... I mean...
Yes?
Well, what I'm trying to say is... Will you be coming back?
By Jingo!
Will you?
I asked you to the dance, didn't I? Well, be seeing you then.
Look at her.
I told you if I started dressing like other girls, everything would be alright and I'd be popular.
Popular. Missing dinner, dodging exams. By Jingo, you started painting yourself.
I haven't.
I can see the paint. Perfume. You started using perfume.
Frank, she hasn't even had her dinner yet.
It's her own fault. Perfume.
Well, just one dab, and why not? It isn't painting or makeup, and it smells so good.
Why not? Because it stinks up good fresh air, that's why not. You're going to wash it off.
Oh, Dad.
Out all this time. Movies, perfume. Painting your face?
It's awful.
Well, you go along to the dining room and report to Miss Brill.
Anne?
Now, Frank.
Fine then. You handle it. Movies. Perfume. Painting. Thank heavens my other daughters are a little more sensible. Not quite so...
It's Motorcycle Mac. Maybe this time we'll
Silly.
stop.
Whoa.
There he goes.
Hi, Anne.
Where were you?
Mother, I did put on one dab of perfume, but not any makeup. Not at all. See?
I'll explain to Dad later. It's just color. Your color's very good tonight.
There's a reason. I'd like to get going on that exam.
Who'd you go with?
That fool back.
Larry. Mother, I had a wonderful afternoon.
You shouldn't have stayed so long. We worried about you, especially your father.
Why does Dad care so much? So what if I do waste one afternoon?
Your father wants everything ship-shape and efficient before he leaves for Europe. Besides, there's this test.
Why'd they have to send that Miss Brill?
I'm sure she's a fine teacher, dear. I'll tell her you're here.
What's up? What's going on?
Larry asked me to go to a dance. He's coming right back for me.
Are you crazy? It's a school night. What are you gonna tell Dad?
I don't know. I'd better get the exam out of the way first, though. Is it tough?
Same old IQ stuff. It's a snap.
Especially for Miss IQ of Montclair High.
For once, I wish I could be Miss something else.
You're stuck with it.
For once, your IQ will be put to some good use. I can't wait to see Miss Brill's face when she grades your paper.
I have a feeling she's dying to bear down with that red pencil.
Even I didn't have much trouble with the written part.
And the word association test? There's nothing to it.
She just shoots 5 words at you.
Oh, swell. I'm in an awful rush.
Say, if I told you the words, you could really pour it on her when she asks.
Well, don't.
Golly, her mouth would just drop wide open.
I'd better get in there.
You know, if every time she popped a word at you, you could pop back a lot of answers, a whole string of associated words.
Of course, it wouldn't be right if we told Anne the words in the test.
No, it wouldn't. I'd better get a move on.
It would be wrong to tell her that the first word is knife.
No.
Or that the second word is black.
Stop.
Foot, hair, bird.
Oh, you shouldn't have told me.
No, you certainly shouldn't have told her that the 5 words are knife, black, foot, hair, bird. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Gee, I'm sorry, Anne. Put those words out of your mind. Try and forget that the 5 words are knife, black, foot, hair, bird.
Forget them after the way you've been drumming them in. Good night. I'm already thinking of answers. Why'd you do a thing like that?
Are you ever going to get down to business?
Right now.
I thought your mother said to see to the babies.
We were seeing to them.
Until a motorcycle passes the house.
I think motorcycles are wonderful. You can make lots of noise with a motorcycle.
Anne's just breezing through the test.
About time she did some breezing.
You know, I think she has a crush on one of the boys at school.
Boss, here are the charts I worked out. Rotation of duties and assignments, and records of results. I want this up and functional before I leave.
Oh, I wish you wouldn't go. Dr. Burton says
Dr. Burton. Dr. Burton. You know, we'd better start concentrating on a way to knock some sense into our older daughters.
they're perfectly normal. At least they want to be.
They want to be wasting a lot of time. And time's too precious.
Is it really so important to go to this management conference?
A conference like this gives me an opportunity to explain motion study to the world. The world could stand a little more efficiency. Besides, it could be awfully good for business. It costs a lot to run a house like this.
Do you remember when we first talked about the family we'd have? Our wedding day. You said we'd have a wonderful life and a wonderful family, a great big family.
I warned you, children from the basement to the attic, from the floorboards to the chandeliers.
And when we went for Sunday walks, we'd look like Mr. and Mrs. Pied Piper.
Mrs. Piper, shake hands with Mr. Piper. Mr. Piper, meet Mrs. Piper.
I asked you how many children, just as an estimate, and you told me, just as an estimate, many.
That day we got on the train, You tried to appear so blasé, as if we'd been married for years.
And then I took off my hat and you gave that loud whisper, "Good Lord, woman, why didn't you tell me your hair was that color?" Everyone turned around to leer and wink.
I shouldn't have done that. I was just so proud of you. I wanted everyone to look at you and to know you were my wife. I think the work charts and committees are getting along fine. The family's getting so it runs itself.
You've thought of most everything, Mr. Piper.
Why, thank you, Mrs. Piper. I told you Anne would be back on time.
I don't think she's taking that test seriously. She's just marking answers down the page as fast as she can go.
She said something about being in a hurry.
Perhaps she has something more important.
What is it?
You weren't supposed to leave the table until you're finished.
I am finished.
That's impossible.
It's finished.
You answered all the questions the best you could.
Honestly, Dad, it was a snap.
A snap. We'll see just how much of a snap it was.
You bet we'll see.
We'll see just how much of a... My goodness.
What's the matter?
There doesn't seem to be anything the matter.
You mean you haven't found any wrong answers?
Not yet.
Keep marking.
I will. My goodness.
Yet?
No, not yet.
Just keep on marking.
I can't properly mark a paper under conditions like these.
Yet?
No, not yet.
Good girl, Anne. By jingo, we'll tell the whole family about this. She's a chip off the old block. I wish to make an announcement about your older sister.
Well, but she hasn't finished grading my paper yet.
So far as we know, your older sister has just completed a perfect examination.
What, Mr. Gilbreth?
So far as we know, yet.
Yeah. Good job, man.
And it looks very much to me as though she'll graduate at the end of this semester.
What's this about graduating?
Mr. Gilbreth, you were instructed not to mention that.
Well, you've already got her examination.
What is this?
But she hasn't even had the word association test yet.
Well, give it to her.
Here. Now.
Yes, here and now.
All right. But this is very irregular.
Are you ready now?
Oh, yes. She's ready.
I guess so.
All right, you know how it's done. Try to answer with the words you associate. Your first word is knife.
Stab, wound, bleed, slit, throat, murder, disembowel, scream, shriek.
My goodness. You must have an IQ higher than Nicholas Murray Butler.
I read a lot.
Your next word is black.
Velvet, night, pitch, tar, ebony.
Next, foot.
Kick, shoe, walk, run, stocking, dance.
Next, hair.
Ribbon, hat, pigtail, shampoo, louse.
Next,
egg, song, nest, fly, worm, perch.
But I didn't say the word. I just said next.
That's true.
Let me see. Your next word was bird. You said egg, song, nest. That's it. You knew the next word was bird.
How could she know?
You did, didn't you? And you knew the IQ exam as well, didn't you?
No, it was just those words. It was just a joke, sort of.
Anne.
How could you?
I see through the whole thing. You're all nasty little cheats.
Miss Brill.
I told her the words. And me.
Yes, you all cheated.
No, I'm the only one.
You're the only one who got caught. I see now how you all get ahead in school so quickly. I'll certainly be reporting this to the superintendent.
But I didn't know the test meant anything.
This ends that graduation talk, and I'll recommend that all this grade skipping you've been doing be thoroughly reviewed.
Well, just mine, no one else's.
The lot of you.
Oh
gosh, Dad, I couldn't help it.
What do you mean you couldn't help it?
Well, how could everything go so wrong? I had such a wonderful afternoon at the movie with Larry. Gosh, he even asked me to a dance, and then this had to happen.
This sort of thing didn't happen until you got boys on your mind.
Well, she's growing up. Other things are important now, too.
Wasting time, movies, perfume, painting, and now, cheating on an examination. I can't have the whole program ruined by some boyfriend. This is the end of that nonsense.
You don't realize, Dad, when you're the youngest in your grade and you feel you have to stay right in the top bracket, you lose out on other things, like leadership and sociability, going to a dance with a boy you like.
Hi, Ern. Is Anne ready?
Hello, Larry. I guess I can't make it.
Oh, the other date came through?
No.
It's okay. I understand. After all, it's perfectly up to you. Well,
I don't understand why there's only time for studies and systems and organizing things and getting more efficient.
And I don't understand. Never mind.
Guess we just don't understand each other anymore. I'll give a hand in the kitchen.
And wait.
It was the only thing to do. Really.
sure. You're right, Dad. Come on, you might as well finish up with the dishes.
Let's get back to the babies.
Dad, she'll be all right.
I was painting the fence. It's not still too dark out.
I'll stir the paint.
I couldn't just let her run off to a dance. It's a question of the whole program. That's much more important. And time is so precious.
Of course it is, Dad. I had better locate the dumb dog.
That's the whole thing. Time is so precious.
Well, they're all gone. With them all out of the living room, it's so quiet and peaceful.
It certainly is. I hate it.
Is that song just in my mind, or do you hear it too?
I hear it too.
I don't know why. It makes me think of the afternoon Dad left for Europe.
The last time we were all together. Remember what Mother said? She was right.
When you're all together, it's the happiest time in the world.
She said it like she meant us to remember.
It never occurred to us Dad had any intention of dying till he was good and ready.
I think it occurred to Anne. Something happened that afternoon. Something that made her suspect.
The way I remember, Anne spent the afternoon taking a review exam for the school board. Then she was so late coming home, Dad worried he might not even get to see her.
She was late because she was waiting for the examiner to grade her paper. She
Miss-
wanted to have something to show Dad before he left.
The misunderstanding with Dad, Anne really took it to heart. She felt so awful.
I think Dad felt worse.
You could tell. When we went to put on the show for him that afternoon, to give him a big send-off, he laughed and acted as though he thought it was wonderful, but you could tell.
He kept watching for Anne.
It was his favorite show, too. Our imitation of him and Mother.
I still know it by heart.
You always took the role of Dad. I was Mother.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, our first guest this afternoon is Dr. Lillian Muller-Gilbreth.
Hello, Charlotte. So glad you could be here. Grace, I like your new hat. Why, Jenny, you bobbed your hair. I'm not going to make a speech, but I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Tell us, Mrs. Gilbreth, did you want to have so many children? And if so, why?
Any other questions?
Who's it who wears the pants in your household?
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Gilbreth, for your enlightening answers.
Our next speaker is Frank Bunker Gilbreth. Don't be frightened now. Please keep your seats.
He promised to limit himself to 2 hours, and not to mention the one best way to do work more than twice in the same sentence.
Thank you, thank you. For the sake of convenience, I've divided my talk into 30 headings and 117 subheadings. Let us commence with the first heading.
Mr. Gilbreth, the superintendent at the factory here needs your advice at once.
We'll be right over.
Dear me, 3 seconds. Are you all reasonably sanitary? Is everybody dry? All right then, follow me.
Mr. Gilbreth, I am the superintendent of this factory.
You call this a factory?
Christmas! Look what followed you in! Are those your children or is it a picnic?
They're my children, and it's no picnic.
Do you like my little Bolivian? Bolivians come cheaper by the dozen. Do you think I should keep them all?
I think you should keep them all home.
Jackie boy, take those fingers out of your mouth and explain to the superintendent what is insufficient about this drill press.
That thing, a drill press? Ha!
Precisely. Lillian, explain in simpler language.
The position of the hand lever is such that there is waste motion both after transport loaded and transport empty. And the work point of the operator is at a fatiguing level.
Heavens, Mr. Gilbreth! Tell your children to stop climbing all over my machinery.
They won't get hurt. They're all trained engineers. I trained them myself.
Look at that little Bolivian squatting over my buzzsaw. I can't watch. Don't let him squat any lower.
The little rascal thinks it's a bicycle. Children have to learn by doing.
I lose more children in factories. Now, the rest of you, keep away from that buzzsaw, you hear me?
Somebody make note of that so we'll know how many places to set for supper. Good day, sir.
It's your turn now.
Do your one-man minstrel show.
No, let's wait till Anne gets home.
But what if she doesn't get home in time?
Well, she will.
Maybe she's having trouble with the exam.
Miss Brill probably saw to that.
Nonsense. And if Anne does have any trouble, it's just because they don't know how to put together a proper test. Some teachers just don't know their business.
Aren't you going to do any minstrel show for us?
Your father has all sorts of last-minute things to tend to.
Please, just a little, Dad.
Too much on my mind, really.
But we won't be seeing you for a really long time.
And you always do that part in the show.
I just don't much feel like it. Anne!
Oh, hello, Dad. I didn't mean to be late.
How'd you do?
Did you show that Miss Brill and her school board?
Well, they haven't finished marking my paper yet. I tried to explain I was in a hurry.
Of course you did. But you took so long, I was beginning to worry.
It was a hard exam. I don't know how I did, but I tried my best, though, my really best.
I know. But I was just beginning to worry you wouldn't be home in time. Mr. Bones, I say, Mr. Bones.
Yes, Dad.
Do you know how you get the water in the watermelon? Why, no. How do you get the water in the watermelon? Why, you plant it in the spring! Mr. Bones, do you know Isabel? Isabel? Why, sure. Isabel necessary on a bicycle.
I said I'll snack for you. There's no decent food on trains. And for you children, I made some ice cream and cookies for you.
Ice cream, hooray!
I don't know about this. When it comes to ice cream, you're right on the job. But when it comes to a project, you're slow as molasses.
Hey, Dad.
Please.
I don't know. What do you say, boss?
Did you say molasses, Mr. Bones? Why, I ain't had no lasses. Come along, chillin'.
I'm glad you finished up and got home.
Oh,
hell, I'd have been home in time anyways. I mean, I wouldn't have let.
I bet you made them feel real foolish for insisting on a review examination.
I don't know.
Of course you did. All you had to do was get the foolishness out of your head so you could do your best.
Well, I did do my best, but I haven't gotten the foolishness out of my mind.
Anne.
Oh, Dad, she's been studying herself sick.
I can't help it.
I can't understand why you haven't more sense.
Dad?
I'm glad I'm not the oldest. By the time he gets to us, things will be taken for granted.
I don't see why Dad cares so much.
Sometimes it seems like he's the strictest father in town.
Are there any calls for me or anything?
Larry.
Did he say anything? Did you say anything?
A little. I helped your cause.
How?
Well, I didn't want him to think that you'd just been studying all this time for an exam. That's so drab. I gave him something colorful to think about.
What?
About all the other dates.
No.
I'm not so dumb.
Anytime Motorcycle Matt calls, just keep your brilliance to yourself.
What's the matter?
Well, now he'll think, oh gosh, Mark.
I can't help it that neither of you understand men.
Don't understand men? Watch how I handle Mac.
He won't even slow down.
He'd better.
What do you mean?
You know that corner where he swings around with his motorcycle? This is the last time he swings. You gave me the idea.
What idea?
Nails and broken glass.
I was joking.
Well, we better warn him.
Got him.
My gosh.
It's Larry.
What's Larry doing on Mac's motorcycle?
Oh no. The poor guy.
Larry.
Whose idea was this?
It was Anne's.
Not enough to give me the runaround. Now you're trying to kill me.
Kill you?
People get put in jail for things like this.
You're not going to have me put in jail.
Well, no.
You can if you want to.
Why would I want you in jail? Even if you are running around with college boys when I thought you were studying. Even if you accepted 3 fraternity pins at the same time.
My ice cream's probably melting, if you'll excuse me.
I thought you were so different.
I am. But you paid a lot for that motorcycle.
Yes, I borrowed it. I better go see how much damage was done.
Can I help?
You've done enough.
My ice cream's probably melting too.
Aren't you going to eat any ice cream, dear? I don't have much appetite. Are you worried about the test? The test and everything. That boy. Anything else? Dad. You're worried about Dad? Well, we used to understand each other so well. Now it seems like we don't understand each other at all. Your father tries to do so much. Sometimes he gets impatient. Why is he in such a hurry for us? Why doesn't he want us spending time with boys and going on dates and things like that? It seems like we have to make every minute count. Well, he might have a reason. What, Mother? He might want to get as many of his dozen as possible through school. You especially, you're the oldest. We'll all get through school. Why the hurry? After all, Dad is along in his 50s. Dad's young. But people get things wrong with them. Things like heart trouble. Is that why Dr. Burton's always coming over? Well, it's nothing for you to get excited about. Does Dad have heart trouble? Well, you see, does he? You're so eager to grow up. Oh, Mother! Well, of course he wants everything efficient and organized. Of course he wants you all getting ahead as fast as possible. Mother! Well, there, you're thinking it's much worse than it is. If I'd known. Oh, darling, it isn't that bad.
Boss, I forgot to put up the cross-section graph.
Well, I can show them all later. What is it, Dad?
1,000 lines long and 1,000 lines wide. That makes exactly 1,000,000 little squares.
1,000,000?
You hear people talk a lot about big numbers these days, but not many people know what an awful lot a million is. You're going to see it every day.
Do you have $1 million, Daddy?
No, I have 1,000,000 children instead. Somewhere along the line, a man has to choose between the two.
Well, I can put it up. I can explain what it means.
Later this afternoon. Don't you like ice cream anymore?
Me?
Mrs. Piper, won't you please come up while I say goodbye to the babies?
And what toys are you going to bring back for them, Mr. Piper? Slide rules?
Why, Mrs. Piper, what a good suggestion.
Just a tire and a bent mudguard. Could be much worse.
What?
The motorcycle.
Oh,
It costs money, you know.
well, maybe Ern and I could pay for the damage gradually.
It's pretty old and beat up anyway.
But whatever the cost.
Anne,
Yes?
how come you spend all your time running around with college boys when you're supposed to be studying? I didn't think you were that kind of girl.
I'm not.
You don't have to pretend with me.
I'm not pretending. I wouldn't pretend with you. I don't think people should pretend with other people.
Well, I don't either.
So, you're at it again. Shocking.
Certainly has a wonderful sense of timing.
Oh, I just hope he doesn't upset Dad. Larry, Dad's leaving and all. I'd better see if I can help with things.
Sure, I'll get along. You don't really have 3 fraternity pins, do you? I mean, I wouldn't think your dad
No,
would,
of course not. I won't have time for nonsense like that.
but what do you mean?
Sometimes a person has to push ahead with important things. Sometimes there's reasons.
Going to a dance with me? That wouldn't be important.
You don't understand. I didn't understand myself.
What?
Reasons. I can't explain. There's so much I'll have to do. I won't have much time.
Not even for the senior prom?
You mean you're asking? Gosh, Larry. But it wouldn't be right. With Dad away, things have to be pushed along.
You won't go?
I can't.
Well,
Don't you answer the door anymore?
Dad, I didn't hear it.
You weren't listening.
hello, Mr. Gilbert.
I thought you wanted to go to a dance.
Well, I do, but
Sounds like I have an eldest daughter, just about grown up. I wonder. Good heavens.
Don't you answer your doorbell?
Good afternoon. Won't you come in?
who is it? Oh,
Won't you sit down?
No, I understand you're leaving, so I'll be brief.
did you mark my paper?
The superintendent marked it himself.
Yes?
It wasn't my idea to come here.
About what?
The examination.
Please, did I pass?
Let's have it. I catch a train in a few minutes.
It's obvious to me she cheated again.
Miss Brill.
You know I didn't. You watched me every minute.
I don't claim to know how.
Well, let's get on with it. I have to hurry.
That's why I was sent right over.
So?
She may fool others, but she doesn't fool me.
What was my mark?
I'm getting to it.
Did she pass?
Yes.
Was it a good paper?
Yes.
Was there anything wrong with her paper?
No. Yeah, and
Oh, darling.
So there's no more question about when she graduates.
that's what I was told to tell you. I was told to say she's to graduate at the end of this semester.
By jingo, I knew it.
Hey, that's swell.
Now, if you'll excuse me.
Thank you, Miss
Miss
Brill.
Brill, what is 19 times 36?
Really?
19 times 36.
Well, I'm not taking a test. Good day.
It's 684!
Oh, gosh!
Darling, I'm so glad. I was worried.
Nonsense. Your sister did wonderfully.
Nice, Anne.
I knew you would.
Oh, I haven't felt so good in years.
And I have to get on home.
I'm glad you came over.
About the prom?
What I began to say, before I was interrupted by Miss Brill, it seems to me you're beginning to grow up.
She is, more than you know.
And when a girl begins to grow up, it doesn't hurt if she goes to a few dances.
You mean it's all right? Oh, I won't ever let it interfere with my studies or anything, honestly, Dad.
Easy now. I believe you.
I hope you have a nice trip. And you don't need to worry about Anne going to the prom or anything.
You bet I won't. I'm sending Bill right along with you.
Sure thing. You know, it's really something the way you've taught him.
Would you like to learn how to multiply 2-digit numbers in your head?
Never mind, Jackie.
Goodbye. Be seeing you.
Be seeing. Don't It's late. I've had Frank put your bags in the car already.
Good. Bye, Jingo. "9 seconds. That's very good. I have to hurry.
Daddy.
Hush now.
Here now. No time for last-minute nonsense. You all know your jobs and responsibilities. My last official act before I leave is to nominate your mother as chairman of the family council. All those in favor?
Aye.
She is now your new chairman. Here now.
Your father has to hurry.
Dad, before you go, there's just one thing I don't understand.
Just one?
Well, I think maybe I know why you want us getting ahead, but all your work you do, saving time for everyone. Well, what I don't understand is, what do you want to save time for?
For work. If you love that best. For education. For beauty or art. For mumbledy-peg, if that's where your heart lies. It's about where your heart lies. That's what you save time for.
Right now, this is the happiest time in the world.
Now, no waving goodbye nonsense. Get along with things. And bye, Jingo. Behave yourselves.
Fred, get your mother a chair. The rest of you, arrange yourselves for a meeting. Mother? Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Mother. Well, like all families, we have to get on with the business before us. I now call this family council to order.
an amazing job. If we could give them a round of applause. Before you go, I have a couple thank yous, and I'd like to ask that you please hold your applause until the end. First, I have to thank God because without him, I wouldn't have been able to be in this place, and it was a rough play season some days for me. Next, I have to thank Forks for allowing us to use their stage and facilities for another year. We have to thank Servant Stage for letting us borrow their costumes. They're so amazing. We have to thank Mr. DeGuglielmo in the back for doing sound. We also have to thank Mrs. Peeler and my mom who have been here all week watching over us kids and helping the week to run smoothly. My mom was the play overseer, and she made all the schedules and made sure that nothing was broken or anything. She just helped a lot. And Mrs. Peeler helped with costumes and another set of eyes on all of us kids. I have to thank our parent mentor, Mr. Rue, who's off on the side. Without him, this play wouldn't be nearly as good. He had so much wisdom and guidance in how to direct this play, and without him, it would have been a lot worse without him. I also have to thank Mr. Mounts, who's in the crowd, but without his dedication to ALC, we wouldn't be able to put on this production. His dedication to ALC is inspiring, and he's just so invested in us kids and the community, and it's just amazing to see how he works, and we're so thankful to have Mr. Mounts as our headmaster. And I have to thank Perry, my assistant director. He is the lead role in the other cast as Dad, Mr. Gilbreth, but he helped with so many little details. It's insane how much he took on top of being the lead and doing schoolwork. So without him, a lot of teeny tiny little details would not have happened. And lastly, if the seniors would step forward. This is the last performance for some of them, and it's sad to see them go, but they helped so much with leading committees and just helping me pull things together. So without them, we wouldn't have the play either. There's so many people, but that's it. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Before you all go, we need to thank our director, Ella. Thank you for giving us all this opportunity, and thank you for being such a wonderful director. Let's give her a big round of applause.